Hey guys, what's going on? We got another Enhancement Shaman Mythic Plus video. This time we are in a 10 Dawnbreaker. We are playing Totemic once again, Totemic Storm to be specific. But first off, I want to thank all of you guys, and even if you're not watching and you subbed and stuff like that, we hit 1,000 subscribers, which is kind of crazy. Um, but yeah, I want to thank you guys very, very much for all the support and everything with all this. So it's been an absolute blast. I love making these videos, and I hope you guys love watching them as much as I like making them. But anyways, let's get to it. So, Enhancement Shaman. If you didn't know, the MDI was this weekend, and Enhancement Shaman played a starry role in that. Now, they were Stormbringer, but we were still in, which is kind of exciting to me, because the last time we saw was, what was it, Season 2? Of Dragonflight, we only saw one, but now we're seeing them quite often, which is great in my opinion. But will it result in a nerf to enhancement? I hope not, but it is very possible. There's a slight chance for that. But that doesn't mean Totemic is going to receive a nerf. They might just nerf Stormbringer in itself. Who knows? Who really knows? But yeah, like that's kind of exciting in my opinion. But anyways, let's get on to about Totemic. Now, I recently did a guide on it all, so if you are interested in playing it, check that out. There are multiple different builds for it. There's Elementalist, there's Storm, and then there's kind of like this half and half version if you want to. But the build that I'm playing right now is a full totem build where all the damage comes from my totem. And in this Dawnbreaker, I felt some weird interactions almost, like when I would Sunder and we're on the boat, it didn't always feel like it hit. I don't know. It really felt weird, probably because it's some sort of ground mechanic and stuff like that, but yeah, I don't know. It felt kind of weird. But in the long run for this build, in any other dungeon, it feels pretty great. The burst is hilarious, but it does rely on a lot of procs from Sunder. And then the single target to AoE is very simple. Like, you don't really change a whole lot, but at the same time, you still gain a huge benefit. Like, single target is still very, very powerful. Like, I can still do 1.2 to 1.4 million overall in a single target boss fight and continue to blast the AoE. And it feels great. Now, it is very cooldown reliant with Ascendance buffing the crap out of it, but you know, you take what you can get at this point. But it's also much easier to play than Stormbringer. Now, I have put out very simple builds for Stormbringer in general, but I don't think anything really beats how simplistic Totemic is. At the very start, I thought, this is probably going to get pretty complicated, but no, it really gets simple. And then if you add in Flowing Spirits, which basically removes Feral Spirits off your bar, it does come with an even more RNG. But I think it feels really good because if you get like 3 or 4 sets of dogs right at once, you can blast pretty good. But at the same time, if you don't get any procs, it does suck. But I think this build would be better with Root of Elements. Now, that's still the fact of when are they going to remaster it? Who knows? Because they have said they're going to do it in a future patch, and it's not even announced in the 11.0.7 patch, which is kind of frustrating. And this goes for both PvE and PvP too. Like, I think Root of Elements is a huge part of enhancement. It feels good. Now, don't get me wrong, I really like the 2-minute Ascendance, it feels much better, but I feel like Root of Elements is just more fun in general. Now, it's going to be a question of if it's going to be viable, because the proc chance is changing. Now it is going to Maelstrom up and Spent, but it'll have to depend on what percentage they want to put through to that. If they keep it at the 3%, then we have anywhere from a 15 to a 30% chance to proc Ascendance, which would be pretty big. But we also get the 8 seconds long rather than 6 seconds, which means even more uptime on Ascendance. So if the proc rate and stuff is, and it's going to be random. That'll be the downside, is you don't get to choose when it's going to happen. It's just going to be random. But in my opinion, if you mix that with Totemic, it kind of makes it better in some way, because one, you're always going to have the totem down anyways. So it doesn't really matter when it happens. It's just gotta happen. And then at the same time, you have Flowing Spirits, which is random Feral Spirits. So it basically removes your cooldown requirements, so you don't have to plan them out. And for me, that's kind of nice, especially in Mythic Plus when you're pugging and you don't quite know what pulls you're looking for or anything like that, or what your tank is going to do. So I think that's where that comes in like huge. Like right here we get a 3-pack and then we go into a 6-pack and stuff like that. So I kind of wish I saved Ascendance here, but it is what it is, right? I already used it, there's no going back on that. But with Root of Elements, right, you have that random proc chance. It's kind of like, if it procs, it procs, it is what it is. And then since we have Molten Thunder, we have a pretty high chance to have a Sunder during those windows because of the reset chance. And before, you would kind of have to save it for when you proc Ascendance, so it kind of felt a little crappy. But if we have it with this version of everything, I think it would be pretty great. I really do. But when is that coming? I don't know. I don't know why Blizzard announced that it's coming in a later patch, but didn't really tell us when. Like, is it not coming to 11.1? Like, I figured it would have came with 11.0.7, but apparently not. Have they forgotten about it? Probably, because enhancement is a very forgettable spec. They always forget about us. They do a bunch of changes, and then it's kind of like, it is what it is for now. And that's a very frustrating thing. But at the same time, they have to really balance out how much Maelstrom we can spend. Like, because if you look at Tempest, or if you even looking at Thorm's Invocation, right? Every time you Storm Strike during Ascendance, you have a chance to proc Ascendance. Now, that's still kind of the same factor as before, where it was every time you Storm Strike, you get a chance to proc Ascendance. It even counted for Wind Strike, so you get back to back to back to back. But in this case, I think it's going to be much harder to balance unless they, I don't know what they could do to fix it, because it almost seems like we would have a very, very high chance to proc Ascendance. Unless they change how Ascendance works, like they did with Elemental. Buffing the mastery of some sort rather than just having Storm Strike. Which, I don't particularly hate the idea. If they were to change it away from Storm Striking to, overall damage increase, because that would make Ascendance more wanted for Elementalist style, or even like other builds, and it would incentivize that too. But then it would take away the physical damage factor of Doom Winds and Storm Strike, because Mastery does not affect those things. But yeah, I have a feeling they might be changing the way our Ascendance works. Although it is a small chance, I have a feeling that might be in the plans for the future. Just because of how almost unbalanced it is sometimes. Like if you look at our burst windows, they're very massive, because when we're in Ascendance, that's where all of our damage is. It's almost kind of like we've gone back to Mists of Pandaria, where all of our damage is put behind Ascendance, and then outside of that, we're kind of meh. And that's give and take is what is good. I mean, it's a cooldown, so it's supposed to feel like a cooldown, and like that carries over to PvP as well. Like during Ascendance, you're very, very powerful, and that's how it should feel. But for Root of Elements, since it's a random proc chance, 9 times out of 10 you're going to get more uptime with a proc chance on really long fights than you would with a guarantee. But the thing with guarantees is if you have, like, let's say every 2 minutes, there is a guaranteed damage amp phase that the boss has, then that's where regular Ascendance will come in handy. But outside of that, I still think it, even with that, sometimes I think it's still better to take the proc chance. And I prefer it, to be honest. I've enjoyed Root of Elements ever since it came out in, I think it was Legion it first came to play, where the legendary, every time you spent Maelstrom, you had a chance to proc. And I think that's, I think a lot of people really enjoyed it. But at that time, we also had Ascendance and Root of Elements at the same time, so it's hard to say where they want to go with that. I think if they do bring it back and it becomes unbalanced, they're gonna have to change the way Thorm's Invocation works, because I honestly think there is a significant amount of power behind that. There really is. Although it does take a hit in Stormbringer when you spend your Tempest as a 5-stack rather than a 10-stack, it's still extremely powerful button to press. And I think that's great, but also bad at the same time in a way, right? You have Root of Elements, and it's, but who really knows when that's coming back? It might even be gone forever. I don't know. I hope not, because I really enjoy it. But on to another factor of why don't we use 2 of the talent points? So I was talking to my guildmate about it, who is the other enhancement shaman in our raid team. And we had this idea of Totemic, where rather than going with Lava Lash or Storm Strike, right? In the Stormbringer version, it's all about Lightning Bolt and Chain Lightning, which completely makes sense, rather than going into Storm Strike. Now, it does have a Storm Strike factor with Awakening Storms, but majority of the time, everything is procced by Lightning Bolt or Chain Lightning, or even Elemental Blast. For this reason, I think they should modify how Lively Totems and the other button works. I can't remember what it is. But I think they should change how that works and to work it into Sunder rather than have it with Lava Lash. Because I think almost everybody really likes Sunder as a button. And I think it's a good mix of it, because not only do you have Earthern Surge, but I think they could add in different factors. Maybe when you Sunder, you leave a patch of fire on the ground or something, or broken earth causing fire strike damage or something like that, right? Or when you Sunder, you trigger a totem that does a volley attack, or if there is only one target, it does a big searing bolt. Yeah, I kind of blew up here. I don't know. I guess Totem Voltic Blaze was not the play to start off the fight. Is interesting. But yeah, I think something like that could work. Anything to work in the Sunder, or they could go with almost the Dragonflight Season 2 set, where it's like when you Sunder, you get a big burst mastery. I think something like that could be interesting. Or maybe increase the damage of your Chain Lightning or something. That way it gives benefit to both factors. Now, I understand they want to keep Hot Hands in effect, and I think Hot Hands has a very interesting factor in this one, because, oh, that's what it is. Every time you have Hot Hands and you Lava Lash, you trigger a fire, or a Sunder at 30% effectiveness. That's right. I do think that's a cool idea, but I think putting something so focused onto specific line of talents, and I don't mean, oh, you can just grab this and off you go. With Hot Hands, you can't really just grab it like Sunder. You have to commit to it. And that's one of the things that I don't really like is I understand that hero talents are supposed to be a commitment to a certain type, but with the way Stormbringer works, you can go with the Elementalist style, or you can go with a Storm style. But with Totemic, it's kind of saying, well, without these 2 talents, you lose this. And it's like, okay, but I feel more powerful even without these 2 talents. Well, that doesn't really make sense. how can you feel more powerful without two talents completely not working? Like, that doesn't make sense at all to me. I think that's one of the issues right now with Totemic, and I think almost everybody else feels that way too. Um, Myself included. It honestly feels ridiculous. Now, I have played the Elementalist version of this, and it does feel really good. It really does. Um, there is definitely a bit of downfall to it where there is a lot of keybinds, but it definitely is a lot easier than previous seasons because of the guaranteed hot hands from Totemic. And it actually feels really, really good. And how fast you can spread your light or your flame shocks as well without having to lava lash first. You can drop the totem, primordial wave, and just blast. Um, it's still a pain in the butt. It really is. And the amount of keybinds, although they did modify how Ice Strike works, I would still prefer to take regular Ice Strike over Frost Shock Ice Strike. But I can't because I don't have enough keybinds, right? And you can't really take Fire Nova because of the same thing. You don't have enough keybinds. And it's frustrating. It really is frustrating. But, you know, that's what they've designed it around. In my opinion, I think Totemic should be around Sunder and the Totem, as well as, you know, Lightning Bolt or your Maelstrom Spenders. I think keeping those factors in would be great, because Sunder kind of reminds you of the Totem where it's a big smash, and Earth Surge I think is a great idea for it, which it really has played into all the factors of buffing the crap out of the Totem. But yeah, I don't know what else they could do. I think a lot of people, there's a lot of hate towards Storm and a lot of hate towards Elementalist, while a lot of people love Elementalist and hate and love Storm. You know, like the enhancement community is split on the two. In my opinion, I think it is great to have a simple build and a, you know, a more difficult build that pays off but punishes you when you make a mistake. I think that's a great idea, and I think all classes should have something like that. But it becomes an issue when you are forced into those types of builds. Now, right now we have a pretty solid balance between the two, but yeah, I think Totemic, the Lively Totems, and the Sunder Hot Hands should have another look at, because yeah, I don't know if we'll see much play of those if they're not changed, because it doesn't really make sense to be missing two of the talents just because it's not as powerful. Like, you buff this totem to hit anywhere from 6 million to 7 million, or you don't buff the totem and you try and do a little bit of damage on your own, it's definitely going to lean towards the mega buff version anyways. But yeah, I don't know. We'll have to see what comes with enhancement in the upcoming patches. There's no changes announced for this week, so which is kind of good. No news is good news, I guess, but we'll have to see if the upcoming weeks after the MDI is finished, we could see some unfortunate nerfs to Enhancement Shaman. But yeah, guys, that is it for this video. I am going to try and get more Keystone videos out throughout the week. Probably one or maybe two more. I'm probably not going to do full commentary over. I'll just do a little blurb at the start. Just because I'm not streaming keys as much now because of PvP and all the raiding I'm doing. I'll try and get more keys towards YouTube, and hopefully that will be better. But anyways, guys, yeah, thank you so much for watching. Thank you for the 1,000 subscribers. That's amazing. And I hope you guys have a great rest of your night or day, and hopefully I will see you in the next one. Laters!